Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Pharma Dreamers. Today's discussion will be on an interesting topic known as quality risk management, commonly known as QRM in life science industry. To make this terminology of QRM more lucid, clear and understandable, I want to provide with an example before going to the main content of the presentation. Friends, we do apply risk management even in our daily life. For example, in case we want to go to a new place, we assess risks so as to determine risks related to mode of transport, arrangement to stay in the new place, how much money is required for expenditure of daily requirements, healthcare requirements in case of emergency, or in case if any unfortunate incident happen in our life, then also we assess risks so as to determine the cause, and based upon this risk assessment we plan to prevent the reoccurrence of the issue. Now friends, based upon this discussion we can clearly conclude that the objective of QRM applied in life science industry is similar to that in daily routine practice. Only difference is that QRM in life science industry is based upon certain available guidelines in a systematic way. Along with this, requirement to documentation of QRM is also necessary in life science industry. Now this is about introduction part of QRM so as to make it more understandable, lucid and clear. Now coming to the background on the development of QRM. QRM was developed on a GMP workshop in July 2003 by ICH regulators, US FDA, EMEA known as European Medicines Evaluation Agency and MHLW known as Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare, so as to harmonize pharmaceutical quality system based upon risk-based concept and principle across life cycle of product, that is from initial development stage through commercial production until discontinuation of product. Based upon this mutual agreement, three ICH guidelines known as ICH Q8 on pharmaceutical development, ICH Q9 on quality risk management, and ICH Q10 on pharmaceutical quality system was developed. So this is about the background on which the concept of QRM was developed. There are six guidelines which talks about quality risk management apart from ICH Q9 guideline. The first one is ISO IEC Guide 73-2002 related to risk management guideline for use in standards. ISO IEC Guide 51-2014 related to safety aspects guideline for their inclusion in standards. WHO Technical Report Series number 908 Annexure 7 published in 2003 related to application of hazard analysis and critical control point. Good automated manufacturing practices guide developed by International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering in 2005 related to risk-based approach for electronic record and electronic signatures. ISO 149712000 related to application of risk management to medical devices. Chapter 1 of UGMP Guide Part 1 Annexure 20 related to guideline for quality risk management. Now what is quality risk management or QRM? Quality risk management or QRM is a systematic process for assessment, control, communication and review of risks to the quality of drug product across product life cycle. It is a systematic process to evaluate the assessment of risks about its impact, likelihood of occurrence, how the risk can be controlled, how the risk management process is communicated between the decision maker and different stakeholders, how the review of risk management process takes place. These four processes constitute quality risk management or QRM. Prerequisites for quality risk management. QRM process shall be initiated with a problem or risk question description along with its background so as to identify potential for risk. For QRM, a cross-functional team shall be formed, which comprise of team leader and experts from appropriate areas. For example, quality unit, process development, engineering, regulatory affair, production operation, in addition to individuals who are knowledgeable about quality risk management process. This team shall identify the probable sources of risk, that is, what might go wrong. Tools like process mapping, Ishikawa diagram, or fishbone analysis, fault tree analysis can be used to identify probable sources of risk. Each identified variable or risk factor shall be analyzed and evaluated qualitatively and quantitatively against severity, detectability, and likelihood of occurrence. Risk analysis or ranking shall be independent, unbiased, in-depth, and by the use of sound scientific knowledge and experience of the team members involved. There are two approaches for quality risk management. The first approach is known as prospective approach. Prospective approach is utilized in case of introduction of new facility, product, equipment, utility, process, and or prior to finalization of process design, product design, and control strategy and development or technology transfer of product. Retrospective approach can be utilized in case of non-conformities like deviation, OS, OT, product failure, market complaint, so as to assess risk associated with such failure on end product quality. Now, from background of concept for development of ICH Q9 by ICH regulators, US FDA, EMEA, and MHLW, and approaches of ICH Q9 guideline known as prospective approach and retrospective approach, we can conclude that ICH Q9 guideline does have an interaction with ICH Q8 guideline known as pharmaceutical development and ICH Q10 guideline known as pharmaceutical quality system. If the identified risk in pharmaceutical development or pharmaceutical quality system is is classified as low risk, then we can say that the system is in continual improvement or the process is in continual improvement. From this discussion, we can conclude that ICH Q9 guideline or quality risk management shall be utilized from the initial development stage to the ongoing process stage to the commercial manufacturing uh, till distribution of product and consumption of product by the patient. In all these stages, assessment of risk is necessary so as to determine the identified risk factor, and if the classified risk is identified as medium risk or major risk, then we need to mitigate the risk. This diagram shows about the systematic processes involved in quality risk management as per ICH Q9 guideline. The first step involved in quality risk management is to initiate the QRM process. In case of introduction of new facility, product, equipment, utility, process, or in case of non-conformities like OS, OT, deviation, market complaint, risk assessment shall be conducted so as to assess risks associated with such failure on end product quality. After initiation of risk management process, the first step involved is risk assessment process, which is known as systematic process of organizing information to support a risk decision to be made within a risk management process. Under risk assessment processes, the three sub steps are involved. The first step is known as hazard identification. Hazard identification is known as systematic use of information to identify potential sources of harm, referring to risk question, or problem description. After identification of hazard, the analysis of risk shall be done, which is known as estimation of risk associated with identified hazards. After analysis of risks, we need to evaluate the risk, which is known, which can be defined as compare the estimated risks against the given risk criteria using quantitative and qualitative scale so as to determine the significance of risk. After the risk assessment process, the risk shall be controlled, which is known as risk control process, and it is known as action for implementing risk management process. Under risk control process, two steps are involved known as risk reduction process and risk acceptance process. Risk reduction process is known as action taken to minimize probability of occurrence of harm and severity of that harm. And risk acceptance is known as decision to accept the risk. If the identified risk is classified as low risk, then the risk can be accepted and no mitigation plan is required. And if the identified risk is classified as a medium risk or high risk, then risk mitigation plan is required to be implemented. And after the implementation of risk mitigation plan, we need to calculate, we need to evaluate that whether the risk is still being categorized as medium risk or high risk, or the risk can be classified as low risk after the implementation of risk mitigation plan. So this states about the third step known as evaluation of result in quality risk management process. Means, as I have told just now, we need to evaluate the risk mitigation plan so as to determine that whether the risks which were categorized as medium risk or high risk can be classified as low risk after the implementation of risk mitigation plan. If the risk can be classified as low risk after the risk mitigation plan, then we need to review the risk, means review or monitoring the output or result of risk management process considering new knowledge or experience of the risk. And based upon risk review, we need to do communication of risks, where sharing of information about the risk and risk management process shall take place between the decision maker and other stakeholders involved in the risk management process. So this is about the processes involved in the quality risk management as per ICH Q9. I hope it is clear till now. Now, in risk evaluation of risk assessment process, each identified variable or risk factor shall be analyzed and evaluated against three parameters known as severity, that is extent of impact of risk on the quality of product, detectability, that is the strength of detection system, and probability, that is likelihood of occurrence of failure. Based upon brainstorming session by team members involved in risk management process, score shall be given to these three parameters, which I have already told as severity, detectability, and probability, that is likelihood of occurrence of failure. Based upon score of these three parameters, risk priority numbers shall be calculated by multiplication of these three parameters known as severity, detectability, and probability, so as to categorize the risks as low risk, medium risk, or high risk. Such scoring shall be mentioned in the site-specific SOP for QRM for the organization. So this is about how to calculate the risks in the risk management process. To make more understandable about scoring given to each parameter and risk priority number, which I have discussed just a while ago. Four tables are shown in the presentation. However, this level of scoring can be different as per site-specific SOP of QRM, as the existing guideline is silent about the scoring criteria. Now consider criteria for giving score to severity ranking, extent that is based upon extent of impact of risk on the quality of product. As I have told, this scoring can be different in the site specific SOP of QRM. For better understanding, I have prepared these four tables. The first table is on severity ranking. Now, severity ranking has been categorized here in five uh, classes. Okay, the first one is critical, means there is a critical impact on product quality. For example, failure of variable has resulted into catastrophic or disastrous condition. For critical uh, impact on the quality of product, the risk score shall be given as 5. After this level, if the identified risk has major impact on product quality, for example, failure of variable has impact on quality out of its design space causing OS, okay, out of specification, then the risk scoring shall be given as 4. After high level, if the identified risk has medium impact on product quality, for example, failure of variable has impact on quality within the design space exiting out of trend level, then the risk score shall be given as 3. If the identified variable or risk factor has minor impact on product quality. For example, failure of variable has impact on quality within the design space and with minimal variation, then the risk score can be given as 2. And if the identified variable or risk factor has no impact on product quality, for example, failure of variable has no impact on quality, that is, the identified risk has no significant impact on the quality of product, then the score can be given as 1. So this is about severity ranking. Now, about criteria for detectability of risk analysis ranking. System-based detection shall be evaluated for level of control on variable or the identified risk factor. Depending upon the level of detection strength, its detection risk shall be ranked. Physical verification of the existing detection system and review of documents like batch record, process or analytical method validation documents, or test data sheets can be used to determine the detection strength of the existing system. Okay, here the detection risk is inversely proportional to the detection strength of the system. Now, coming to this table, the first category was given a score of 5 as the detection system is not capable of detecting non-conformance caused by the failure. For example, if the system has no criteria or no process to record either manually or in automatic mode, and if there is no standards or standard operating procedure available, then such system has no capability to detect the failure, okay, and the such system can be given the score of 5. The second category was categorized as high, okay, as the non-conformance is detected but the assurance of detection is not 100%. For example, only manual recording, okay, but no standard or check available by the use of tick mark without actual observation recording, okay, means only manual recording is available in the existing system but no standard or standard operating procedure available, the data which is generated is not checked, and uh, the doer is not recording its activity, then such system can be categorized as a high risk, and the score can be given as 4. Okay. After that, if the system has statistical control, okay, and there is immediate reaction to out of control condition, for example standard with manual recording and check, then the system uh, can be categorized as moderate detection strength system, and the rank can be given as 3. After that, if the system has the capability to identify the risk 100%, okay, and the identified risk is inspected, for example auto detection or auto recording and print or standard with manual recording, check and cross check by competent person is available in the system, then the strength of detection system can be categorized as low, and the score can be given as 2. And if the existing system is 100% capable to detect and sufficient measures are available to control the risks, for example auto prevention or auto control, recording and print of all the data, then we can say that the system has the capability to detect any risks, okay, and the uh, number can be given as 1. As I have already told that here the detection risk rank is inversely proportional to the level of detection strength. So this is about criteria for detectability of risk analysis ranking. Now for criteria of likelihood of risk occurrence of risk ranking, retrospective review of quality system data such as deviation, OS, OT, market complaint, product failure, or review of documents such as annual product quality can be used for identification of frequency of failure. Depending upon the frequency of reoccurrence, likelihood of occurrence of risks can be ranked. In case of newly introduced process, equipment or facility, likelihood of uh, occurrence of risk can be ranked based upon past similar type of failure in the variable. Okay. Now going to this table, the first category for this likelihood of occurrence of risks has been given a score of 5. Okay, means the frequency of failure is expected to happen frequently, for example on monthly basis. Okay, it is almost certain that the failure will happen, okay, on a frequent basis. After this, uh, if the frequency of failure is happening at a low frequency, for example on quarterly basis, then the score can be given as 4 for such type of failure which which occur on a quarterly basis or at a low frequency. If the failure is expected to happen infrequently, for example once in a 6 month, then the score can be given as 3. If the failure is rare to occur, for example once in a year, then the score can be given as 2. If the failure is unlikely to happen, for example no failure or one failure in 3 years, then the score can be given as 1. So this is about criteria for likelihood of occurrence of risk ranking. I hope it is clear till now. As I have told earlier, that after giving score to each of these three parameters known as severity, detectability and likelihood of occurrence of identified risks or variable, risk priority number shall be calculated by multiplication of these three parameters known as severity, detectability, and likelihood of occurrence. Okay, so as to evaluate that whether the identified risk for each variable or risk factor can be categorized as high risk, medium risk, or low risk. Okay, according to this table, the risks which were categorized as low risk can be given a score of 1 to 8 depending upon multiplication of scores given to severity, detectability, and likelihood of occurrence of risks, and the risks can be accepted. If the score for risk priority number is in between 9 to 64, then the risk can be categorized as medium risk. And as I have told in the process for QRM as per ICH Q9 guideline, you can remember that such risk cannot be accepted. Risk mitigation plan is required so as to reduce the risk into low risk after completion of all the required action plan based upon the risk mitigation plan. Okay, after that medium risk, the next risk can be categorized as high risk if the risk priority number has been calculated between 65 to 125 as per this table. And again, and again, high risk cannot be accepted. We have to implement risk mitigation plan so as to reduce the risk into low risk. Okay, so this is all about scoring to each of the three parameters known as severity, detectability, and likelihood of occurrence. And after scoring to each of these three parameters, categorization of risks can be done into low risk, medium risk, high risk based upon risk priority number. And again, I want to tell that these numbers are as per site specific SOP for QRM. Okay, as the existing guideline is silent on giving such scoring category. Okay, I hope it is clear till now. Now about advantages of QRM used by the organization effectively and sincerely. The first advantages of QRM is that it helps in improve in communication and transparency as sharing of information of risk and risk management process between decision maker and related stakeholder is required as per the procedure given in the QRM as per ICH Q9 guideline. So this makes in improve in communication and transparency of the process to be implemented. The second advantages of QRM is it raises awareness of rationality for any decision making by the leadership group. Okay. The third advantage is that it helps in developing training on methods and tools as appropriate based upon retrospective review of quality system data like OS, OT deviation. Based upon this retrospective review of quality system data and uh, categorization of risks, uh, appropriate training method and tools can be developed so that the user or the employee can become more aware towards the processes to be followed. The fourth advantage of QRM is that preventive control measures can be taken proactively by utilizing and implementing quality risk management process. Okay, in a team-based approach. Quality risk management also create baseline for better understanding of science and risk-based decision based upon evaluation of risks in the quality risk management process. So this is all about advantages of QRM. I hope it is clear that why QRM is required for an organization to grow effectively and why it is required for an organization to maintain in long run success. So this is all about advantages of QRM. Now for simplification in understanding of QRM process, I have tried to provide with few examples which may occur in life science industry to make QRM process more lucid. These examples with identified risks and scoring of risks was discussed and can differ based on situation, knowledge, and brainstorming session conducted by subject matter experts from respective cross-functional department in an organization or as per available site-specific SOP for QRM, which I have already discussed. The first example which was shown here is in case there is a requirement to upgrade new application software in a new computerized system, then we need to do risk management as per the guideline of ICH Q9, and as per this guideline the approach here should be based upon prospective approach. Okay, the first identified risk factor for this example of upgradation of new application software is that new computer system may not be compatible with instrument to be connected. For such risk factor, the parameter for severity can be given a ranking of 1. That is, there is no impact on the quality of product. And why there is no impact on the quality of product? We have to mention in the justification of risk analysis ranking. Okay, as the reason that the new computer system connected to the instrument is connected as per configuration recommended by the service engineer of vendor. The detectability parameter is also given a ranking score of 1. That is, it is almost certain that the existing system will detect that whether the new computer system is compatible with the instrument or not. And why it is almost certain? Because in qualification activity, compatibility issue can be easily detected. The likelihood of occurrence of risk is also given a score of 1. That is, it is unlikely to happen as the new computer system shall be qualified for hardware configuration before connecting with the instrument, which confirm the required configuration as per recommended by vendor. I hope you can understand about the identified risk, parameter of risk ranking and its scoring. Along with that, we have to mention the justification for each parameter scoring which we are giving in the risk management process. The second identified risk factor is that the upgraded version of application software installed in computer system for instrument controlling and data acquisition may not be compatible with data generated with existing application software. For such risk factor of the given example of risk to be identified, the severity parameter can be given a risk scoring of 3. Okay, that is moderate. It has medium impact on quality of the product. Why it is given as risk scoring of 3? Because as per information from vendor, the upgraded software version is compatible with electronic data generated by the existing system or software. Upgraded software shall be installed in new computer system, and the existing computer system having installed software along with data shall be preserved with IT as per backup and restoration policy. There shall be no impact on existing electronic data as a result of this. Okay, the detectability parameter was given a score of 2, and as per the criteria of detectability ranking which I have told earlier, uh, for scoring of 2 related to detectability of risk ranking, it is classified as low, as after installation of software it shall be qualified as a part of CSB. Likelihood of occurrence of risks is given a score of 1, as it is unlikely to happen. Okay, why it is unlikely to happen? As there is no major modification in upgraded version of software based upon information given by the vendor. Software is upgraded to eliminate bugs observed by the vendor. The third identified risk factor in case of upgradation of new application software in new computer system is that there might be chances of existing data loss while performing upgraded software installation and computer system replacement. For such identified risk factor, the severity parameter can be given a score of 2. That is, it has low impact on the quality of product. And why it has low impact on quality of product? As to control the data loss, okay, mitigation plan is already in place. Electronic data and audit trail is backed up as per defined frequency, and existing computer system shall be preserved with IT without deletion or removal of any data oblique software. In case of any requirement, it can be referred for future use. So in this way we have to mention in the justification for the scoring to be given for each identified variable and parameter. The detectability of rank of system can be given a score of 1. That is, it is almost certain for the existing system to identify such type of risk factor. Okay, and why it is almost certain to identify such type of risk factor? Because sufficient measures are available to control risks. Data available on existing computer backup on server shall be transferred to new computer system for verification of completeness by IT as a part of data backup and restoration policy. And likelihood of occurrence of risks is given a score of 1 for this identified risk factor. Why uh, the likelihood of risk ranking is given a score of 1 and it is unlikely to happen? Because electronic data and audit trail are backed up uh, in a defined frequency by IT administrator as per site specific SOP. In case of any loss, it can be restored from the final backup data server. So this is why the likelihood of occurrence of ranking is given a score of 1. I hope you can understand about the identified risks, the parameter of risk and its scoring, and the justification for the scoring given to each of the parameter, that is severity, detectability and likelihood of occurrence. The fourth identified risk factor is that auto sampler may not be compatible with the upgraded software version to be connected. In such type of identified risk factor, severity parameter can be given a rank of 1, that is insignificant, having no impact on the final product quality. And why it has no impact on the final product quality? Because auto sampler to be connected with upgraded software is as per configuration recommended by the vendor. Detectability ranking for the existing detection strength is also given a score of 1. That is, it is almost certain for the existing detection system to verify verify or detect the identified risk factor. Okay, and why it is almost certain? Because in qualification activity, such type of compatibility issue can be easily detected as we are using the instrument and software. Likelihood of occurrence of risks is also given a score of 1, and as a result of this, it is unlikely to happen for the identified risks to occur. And why the likelihood of occurrence is given a score of 1 and it is unlikely to happen? As there is no major modification in upgraded version of software as per report from vendor. New software and autosampler shall be qualified to confirm compatibility. Also, instruments shall be further calibrated to perform connectivity and functioning of the autosampler as well as the instrument. This is all about the risk factor, scoring of risks, and along with justification for the example in case of upgradation of new application software in new computer system. I hope you can understand about the process of quality risk management process. The second example described here is that suppose analytical method validation and analytical method transfer of test A for product B was completed successfully. However, during revision of STP and specification, it was found that known impurity X eluted at relative retention time of about 0.97 shall be replaced by impurity Y based upon evaluation of available characterization data. For such type of situation, retrospective approach shall be taken into consideration so as to evaluate the risk. Okay. From this example, only risk factor to be identified is described, as the procedure for risk ranking is described in detail in the previous content of this presentation. Now the first identified risk is that there would be incorrect value and naming of related impurity in the already approved protocol and report for analytical method validation and analytical method transfer. Incorrect name of impurity shall be reflected in the executed test data sheet or laboratory notebook. The third identified risk factor might be that incorrect result of impurity can be generated due to incorrect name of impurity reflected in the TDS laboratory notebook and analytical method validation and analytical method transfer protocol and report. Incorrect name of impurity shall be reflected in the executed validation or transfer chromatogram. Okay, these are all the identified risk factor for such type of situation where the naming of impurity is given in an incorrect way in the executed analytical method validation and analytical method transfer activities. Now let us consider another example related to introduction of new facility. In case of introduction of new facility, if you can remember, we need to apply prospective approach for risk identification. Okay, and following risk factor can be identified in case of introduction of new facility, but it is not limited to the identified risk factor described in this content of presentation. Few risk factor which can be taken into consider is flow of material and personnel, how to minimize contamination and prevention of mix-up of various material samples, dedicated or segregated area for open and closed equipment, how the measurements of pest control can be taken in the new facility. We also need to consider a risk assessment related to product properties in case of introduction of new facility to be built. Few uh, risk factor related to product is that we need to consider API physicochemical properties, for example particle size, surface area and solubility of the API. The second identified risk factor to be considered for product in case of introduction of new facility to be built is dosage form of drug product to be manufactured in the new facility. Based upon the dosage form of drug product, we can identify that whether the API is tightly bound within a matrix or it is unbounded. For example, in coated tablet or in filled capsule, the API would remain tightly bound within the matrix, or in case of powder granules, the API would remain in unbound form. Based upon this requirement, we can identify the required manufacturing equipment and processes to be present in the facility. Decontamination capability can help to determine which type of cleaning procedure is required. I hope you can understand about the identified risk in case of introduction of new facility. to be built. We also need to consider risks associated with the processes to be implemented in the new facility to be built. The first risk which can be considered is risks related to design of process, which include consideration of flow of operational process, whether open system or closed system is required, the requirement of utility such as air, water, nitrogen, batch related process steps, which include consideration of normal operation requirement, consideration of changeover cleaning process, exceptions, for example, what to do in case spillage occur while manufacturing of dosage form. Few other risks to be considered related to processes to be implemented in the new facility to be built is production scale and volume, which include consideration of batch size, changeover frequency, sequential steps involved in the manufacturing process, supporting activities, which include consideration of maintenance activity, procedure for handling of waste product. These are few examples of risks to be considered during risk management process in case of introduction of new facility to be built. I hope you can understand how risks can be identified, its scoring and evaluation can be done, along with risk mitigation plan can be proposed and implemented based upon risk management process as per available guideline of ICH Q9. Available guideline of ICH Q9 related to quality risk management was revised on January 2023. Summary of changes are described here. In topic related to risk management methodology, points like formality in QRM, risk-based decision making, and managing and minimizing subjectivity was introduced in the revised version of ICH Q9. In topic related to integration of QRM into industry regulatory operations, role of QRM in addressing product availability risks due to quality and manufacturing issues is described in the revised version of ICH Q9. In Annexure 2 related to potential applications for quality risk management, point number 11.9 is introduced, which describe QRM as a part of supply chain control. This is all about summary of changes which has been made in the revised version of ICH Q9. In a separate presentation, these changes will be discussed in detail. This is all about quality risk management, its process involved to evaluate risks along with proposal and implementation of mitigation plan, which was described with few examples in the content of this presentation. I hope this presentation of quality risk management would add value in the simplification of risk management process in our working area and for personal growth. If you like the content of this presentation, then please click on the like button, share and subscribe for maximum reach to the people working in the life-saving industry and to students in the related academics. Thank you and have a good day.